Hey family, it's Carlos Watson. We got a great show today. We got a pioneer from the world of electronic music. Of course, I'm talking about Moby. Now, not only did Moby's music conquer the 1990s, but remember, he's also gone on to become a noted author, restaurateur, animal rights activist who sold over 20 million records over the course of a terrific career. He's here today to talk about his new album, Reprise, as well as a new documentary on his life. Guess what it's titled? Moby Doc. Don't you love that? For much more, here's my man Moby.
The Carlos Watson Show is brought to you by American Family Insurance.
Hey Moby.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing today?
I mean, apart from baldness and mortality, I don't have any complaints.
Oh, I didn't think it was baldness at all. I thought it was a style choice. I like it.
Sadly, no. I don't know what I did either in this life or in a past life to make God hate me and steal my hair.
Well, I used to have the kind of Michael Jackson fro, so I was doing my part for the cause. And then I went to the flat tops in the 80s.
Kid and Play, yeah, getting funky.
Yeah.
Minute by minute, hour by hour. Kid and Play got soul power. We get funky.
Clearly, based on what I can see on this tiny screen, you have a lot more up here to work with. I mean, probably both in terms of hair and cognitive ability than I do.
My life as a musician has taken me to a lot of very odd places.
The first thing I noticed on your Wikipedia page, it said you were born in Harlem.
Yes. I was born in Harlem. So this is the odd thing. I am a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant from Darien, Connecticut, but I grew up poor white trash on food stamps and welfare. The majority of people in my family, because of marriage, are now South American and Jewish, and I don't know anything about waspy holidays. I know when all the Jewish holidays are, so I'm an old school WASP who knows nothing about WASP culture. So my mom was a receptionist at Columbia, and she met my dad, who was like a teacher's assistant also at Columbia. They're both dead. My dad died when I was 2. They loved John Coltrane. My mom always told me that her belief was that, and I hope this is true, because if it's true, it's the greatest story, that she maintains that I was conceived while they were listening to A Love Supreme. They loved living in New York. They wanted to be near Columbia, so they lived, I think it was up in the 140s somewhere. And then my dad died. We moved back to Connecticut where she had grown up, but we lived in Darien, Connecticut, which is, arguably one of the most affluent places in the world, but we were broke and on food stamps and welfare.
You were in Darien, but no money? How did that work?
My mom wanted to live there because the schools were good, but she was largely unemployed, so we lived in a garage apartment. And I did my best to go to school and pretend that I was not buying food with food stamps and buying my clothes secondhand at Salvation Army.
Were you uncomfortable all the time? Were you outcast? Were you insider? Did you have imposter syndrome? What was that like being in that place, in that space?
I felt like a 7th class citizen. Like, it gave me a sense of sort of inadequacy. And even if I'm being honest, shame that I still hold on to this day. Like, even if my circumstances have changed, to a large extent, my sense of self was formed when I was that poor kid on food stamps and welfare going to high school or going to junior high school. Like, I still largely perceive myself that way, even if externally things are different.
Our home is the training ground for her dreams policy. Insure carefully. Dream fearlessly.
As you became famous and had lots of acclaim, what happened and what was the interaction like with those former classmates or neighbors or whomever?
Well, what's funny is, and I don't know if anyone watching can relate to this, but like when I was growing up, I thought wrongly that I was the only person dealing with shame or dealing with feelings of inadequacy. And as time has passed, I've learned even the kids who grew up in the most palatial homes, whose parents were CEOs they were dealing with their own issues. Like, no one had a perfect childhood. And it's only like as I started to get into adulthood and encounter the kids I went to school with as adults, realizing like everybody was wrestling with their own issues. I just assumed at an early age that if someone was comfortable, if someone came from money, if someone had carpeting on the floor, if someone had heat in the wintertime, I was like, wow, they must be the happiest people in the world. And turns out, no, I was mistaken.
If I had met you at 16, 17, did you think you were going to be a successful musician? Did you think you were going to have this kind of fame and acclaim?
No, absolutely not. I didn't even think it was in the realm of possibility. When I was 13, I started hanging out in nightclubs in New York, and I got into punk rock, I got into hip hop, I got into electronic music, and I started playing in bands. And up until the time I was around 24, a good night out with one of my bands was playing for 10 people. Beyond that, I never expected to have a record deal. I never expected to leave the tri-state area. I never expected anything.
Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Ooh, Lordy, my trouble so hard. Don't nobody know my trouble but God. Don't nobody know my trouble but God.
And at the time, and then when I was in my early 20s, I was living in an abandoned factory in a crack neighborhood, and I was pretty happy there. So it's strange, like I had a lot of creative ambition, but professionally, I never expected really much to ever happen.
And then what happened? How did you end up becoming someone who sold tens of millions of records?
I mean, the only thing I can think of is I loved what I was doing. And I worked tirelessly at it, and I had no shame pursuing things. You know, like, and I would work anywhere. Like, my standards for work were non-existent. If someone asked me to be in a band, I said yes. If someone asked me to DJ somewhere, I just said yes. I never once asked the question, well, how much am I going to get paid? Like, if I got paid, that was fine. If I didn't, I was still doing what I loved. And that approach of just like blind enthusiasm and lack of shame meant that I got signed to a tiny little record label and ended up having weird success with the tiny record label, and then got signed to bigger labels. But it wasn't like a steady trajectory. It was like there was a little up and down and up and down. I mean, it's like this constant ups and downs, and none of it was expected. But because my standards were so low, you know, my first single sold 1,000 copies, and I was like, that's it. Whoever thought something so amazing would happen.
Let my honey come back. Sometime I'm gonna rap like that. Sometime let my honey come back. Sometime I'm gonna rap like that. Sometime I get a hump in my back. Sometime.
What was the most interesting or surprising or wonderful thing about becoming famous? Because most people never will.
Well, because I never expected fame, if you had said to me that at some point in my life I would have record deals and sell millions of records and stand on stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people, I would have thought, I'll be the happiest person who has ever lived. But then I got to that point and the happiness didn't ensue. So that was for me the most surprising part, is realizing fame and external success don't inherently deliver happiness. The documentary, there's this documentary, Moby doc, and that's sort of the premise of the movie.
We think that if we have the right amount of money, if we have the right amount of recognition, we'll find perfect human happiness.
Oh, babe.
But I tried, and it didn't work.
And we use it as examples, like, look at Robin Williams, look at Anthony Bourdain, look at Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Ernest Hemingway, like the list of people who really were phenomenally successful and famous but it didn't fix their broken issues.
Do you think at this moment in your life, are you stronger than you were before?
I think that there's a degree of strength that comes from doing almost like an assessment of your life and looking at the things that you've gone through and giving yourself a little credit and saying like, oh, you went through that. That was hard. But now you know you can go through it. Like back when I lived in New York, I would find myself at these very fancy events, sitting with the most affluent people on the planet, telling them that I used to live in an abandoned factory that had no running water. And in order to go to the bathroom, I had to pee into a plastic jug. You know, like it's kind of it's a fun way to shut down a conversation. You know. But part of strength is learning, I think, the things that we can't defend ourselves against. Years ago, I decided I'm not strong enough to read reviews, to read articles. I can't watch myself on TV. I don't read comments because they affect me too much. So my approach, I don't know anything. You know, if the world likes me, I don't know about it. If the world hates me, I don't know about it. I make stuff, put it out into the world, and politely ask everyone around me, don't send me reviews. Don't send me comments. Don't send me anything. I love not knowing. For me, handing my well-being, handing my sanity, handing my sense of self over to strangers is a dangerous thing I should best avoid.
Who are some of the musicians that you enjoy these days? Who, if anyone, do you like listening to? Who moves you?
Sadly, and I should probably just keep this to myself, I'm ashamed to say, I pretty much only listen to older music. 99% of what I listen to Spotify was recorded 40 or more years ago. So I tragically, sadly, I know next to nothing about new music. Every now and then I hear something that I think is new. Like I heard a Kendrick Lamar song and I told a friend of mine, I was like, wow, this Kendrick Lamar song is really good. And they're like, yeah, it's 4 years old.
So where are you living these days? Where's home?
I moved back to New York in the late 80s and I thought I would stay there forever. But then 12 years ago, I got sober and very quickly learned that New York is a delightful place to be a drunk and a really challenging place to try and be sober. Okay. And so I moved to LA. I wake up early in the morning, I go hiking, I drink tea outside. Like it's just this very simple, nice place to be a sober middle-aged guy.
I imagine people probably approach you all the time for so many different reasons and probably ask you about your road. What's the best advice you've either gotten or given about how to dream fearlessly and bring those dreams alive?
What I would say is learn from other people. You know, learn who are the people who are worthy of emulating and who are the worthy of people who are worthy of learning from as like things you don't want to do. The idea that if you're motivated by a profound, unwavering, enthusiastic love for what you're doing, it will serve you phenomenally well. It's find what you love and be driven by that because one, it means you will work tirelessly. There's nothing I like more than working on what I love. And if you fail, you will keep working. Because you won't think to yourself, oh, I failed at doing something I don't like. I guess I'll go do something else. Like you get back in. And it's that idea of like, no matter what happens, if you have success, you keep working. If you have failure, you keep working. If people love you, keep working. If people don't love you, keep working. Like that, pick yourself up and keep going.
Tell me about this new album. What made you do it and what's special about it?
Usually I work by myself, but this was working with a string quartet, with a gospel choir, with percussionists, with arrangers, with an orchestra, with so many different singers. I mean, everybody from Gregory Porter to Chris Christopherson, like it's this eclectic group of people. So that's the practical side of it, the process side of it. But for me, the ultimate utility of music is communicating emotion, creating something that had a really intense emotional quality to it. I hope I succeeded. Clearly, I'm not the best judge of that, but that was the goal.
I'm so grateful that I got to meet you.
It was an honor being here. Thank you very much. Really nice speaking with you.
Nice speaking with you, Moby. Be safe.
I'm really excited to see what his next album has in store.
Oh, so you're a regular Moby fan?
Yeah, heck yeah. It's interesting that he's going to go a lot more of a traditional route and going full orchestra.
His backstory was something that I had never heard before. I found very intriguing. Not surprising with the punk background that he started with, right? You know, that usually starts from that kind of an environment. And then he took that punk energy and managed to transform it into another music industry that hadn't been there yet.
Hey, I really hope you enjoyed that conversation with Moby. What an interesting guy. What an unexpected backstory. Very interesting to hear him talk about growing up the single mom in a wealthy area, but really kind of working class. I loved his hustle story, the way he kind of made it happen. Really interesting to hear all of that. Loved how he started off. Kudos to him. Hey, that's going to be it for us today. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, remember you can subscribe and get more episodes every day. Also listen to the podcast. Really good stuff there. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. We'll see you on the other side.